Good lunch, everybody. Um, Welcome and thanks for taking time out of your busy day to join us for our monthly meeting here. We've got kind of an action-packed agenda, or I would say not action, information-packed agenda here for us today. So welcome to the April Spring Monthly Meeting. And want to remind everybody, presentation is recorded and we want to get your feedback, so fill out the survey afterwards. Going to lead off today with a video of appreciation from our hospital leaders here. Dr. Jean Kutner, who's our Chief Medical Officer, and she's actually our Chief Academic Officer now, and Tom Gronow, our CEO, in honor of Doctors' Day, and they are also have provided the lunch for us today. So, and then after that, we'll have Dr. Amira del Pino-Jones, who is Associate Dean for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, who will tell us about what's going on from that office. And then we'll roll into survey layouts, but also precede that with a little bit of information that's in response to the survey, and that is more information about what's going on around here from leadership. So with that, you want to roll?
Hi, I'm Tom Gronow, President and CEO of University of Colorado Hospital.
And I'm Jean Kutner, Chief Medical Officer at University of Colorado Hospital.
On behalf of our senior leadership team, we want to wish you a happy Doctors' Day. We're grateful and thankful for all that you do, not just for our patients, but for us as a leadership team and supporting your teams with whom you work each and every day to provide exceptional care to our patients.
Yes, we couldn't do this without you. The doctors are essential to what we do and to serving out our missions. We're grateful for both your excellent patient care, your leadership, as well as your contributions to educating our trainees and to contributing to new knowledge. So thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you. Yeah, I think so. Great. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for allowing me to join your meeting today. Again, my name is Amira del Pino-Jones. I am the Associate Dean for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for the School of Medicine. I am also an internal medicine hospitalist at university. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about the resources that are currently and still offered through the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion in the School of Medicine. Now, I actually used to end my presentations with this slide, and people just looked at me throughout the entire presentation like, has she completely lost touch with reality? Is she going to talk about the current events and things that are happening in the world today? So I figured it's best to start with that. And I know everyone's aware of the various executive orders, memos, letters that are specific to diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts at academic universities across the country. And the reality is, because of the work that we do, we're all involved in healthcare. We all take care of a very diverse patient population. And in order for us to provide that quality care, provide quality education to our learners, there has to be consideration for diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I can tell you now, we have been very supported by senior leadership who has continued to state over and over again that diversity, equity, and inclusion is still embedded within the mission for the School of Medicine, as well as in the missions of our various health systems partners as well. And with that being said, we are very much working closely with our legal teams to really comb through the executive orders, look at those memos, and figure out exactly what we can do, what are the restrictions or limitations on the things that we can do moving forward. But everything that I'm presenting here today has been reviewed by the legal team and is very much, as they have told me, within the legal bounds of the work that we can currently do in the diversity, equity, and inclusion space. So there's been some staffing changes over the last couple of years within our office. And as many of you may know, I started in this role about 2 years ago now, a little over 2 years ago. The previous Associate Dean for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, Shanta Zimmer, our office is actually housed within the Office of Medical Education. So she is still very much involved in the work that we're doing. Um, as the Associate Dean, I oversee our diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts spanning from K through 12 to undergrad, so our pathway programming. Also focused on undergraduate medical education, which includes our MD program, PT, PA, anesthesiology assistant programs, as well as our grad program. GME space, which you all know includes our fellows and our residents, and then the faculty space and community engagement as well. So I would say faculty, staff, and community. That's a lot of people in a lot of different spaces. So this is why we restructured our office in this particular way. We now have a director, Dr. Marie Scott, who oversees the efforts in the undergraduate medical education space. So really works on various initiatives, programs, and such that are tied to the programs that I mentioned just a minute ago. We have our director for graduate medical education, Dr. Jackie Ward Gaines, again, working very closely with GME leadership and coming up with programming and efforts for our residents and fellows. We have our director of community engagement, Janet Meredith, who has been very involved in the School of Medicine for quite some time and has really been instrumental in service learning and helping with some of our student groups as well that are committed to community engagement projects. Our office manager, Karina Goodwin, oversees the day-to-day activities within our office. And last but not least, our principal professional, Yasmin Pugh, is also very involved in all the various efforts, I'd say spanning pathway all the way up to faculty and community as well. So our vision remains to improve human health by advancing diversity and equity in the biomedical and healthcare workforces and creating an environment in which all feel welcomed, valued, and respected. And our mission is to recruit, retain, and support school and medicine learners, trainees, faculty, and staff through programming, services, and advocacy work within our training programs and departments across the campus and in partnership with our clinical affiliates in the communities we serve. Now, our office is open and available to all students, residents, faculty, and staff. And once again, our focus is quite broad. And some of the main focus areas that we have been really targeting our efforts towards include enhancing our applicant pools. So this is just making sure that we are doing our best to recruit top diverse talent here at the University of Colorado. This includes within all of our training programs, within our matriculating residents, fellows, and graduate students, and focusing on physician specialties and PhD programs where there are certain groups that are underrepresented compared to the rest of the healthcare workforce and compared to the communities that we serve as well. So once again, we are working, we attend a number of national conferences. We have a number of pathway programs. I'll mention a few in just a couple slides. That is really in which we're hoping to attract diverse talent to the University of Colorado. And it's not just about attracting people here, but making sure that everybody is successful, feels valued for their identities, as well as the work that they're doing in our various spaces. So we want everyone to be successful once they're in here. And we believe we can do so by improving everyone's sense of belonging, improving satisfaction with mentoring, and promoting faculty development opportunities to faculty from all backgrounds. So we tend to advertise about national opportunities for professional development and things that are going on our campus as well that is directed towards professional development. In terms of culture, climate, and community, again, we're working to build an inclusive culture, really increase faculty competency in health equity and other related topics, and raise our awareness about efforts and offerings within our office, but across campus as well. And then data-driven diversity action. This is something that we've been striving toward for quite some time, really building accountability, making sure that we're referring to the evidence that we do have in the field of diversity, equity, and inclusion, really being a learning organization and looking how can we continue to move forward, how can we learn from events, different things that have happened in the past, and build trust through transparency. So we are have been very open and honest about all of the work that we're doing, all of the initiatives, programs that we have available to all the learners and faculty on campus. I also had the privilege of working with our departmental leaders for diversity, equity, and inclusion, Dr. Piggott being one of them. I also work really closely with Gil as well. And currently we have representation from 19 departments. These leaders help identify and address departmental needs and priorities related to justice, equity, diversity, inclusion, belonging, and facilitate dissemination of these initiatives. So this was a sort of a strategy that we came up with in order to make sure we were not working in silos. Everyone who's doing this work has now has the opportunity to come together and collaborate on various initiatives. And we still have our diversity council, which is a dean-appointed council that serves as the guiding committee to the work of our office. Includes members from the Anschutz Medical Campus and external community, ranges from students to faculty members, and then, as I said, external community members as well. So just highlighting a few things we've done over the last several years. Again, I think one of our strengths has been our pathway programming. We have 2 programs that the School of Medicine directly oversees, which is our post-bac program, again, open to everybody. It's for people who have applied to the School of Medicine and did not get accepted, usually due to a need to improve some of their academics. So they spend 12 months working on basically a post-bac where they have the opportunity to dive a little deeper into the coursework that's required for medical school and prepares them for the rigor of medical school. We have our BA/BS MD program, which is open to all high school students in Colorado. And essentially, students can interview for this program during their senior year, apply and interview. And if selected, they spend 4 years on the CU Denver campus, have continued to be mentored and advised by people within our office and on the Anschutz campus. And if they're successful in their coursework, MCAT, and successfully interview with the School of Medicine, they can also be admitted to the School of Medicine. So this is one of our sort of 8-year programs, if you will. We have been participating over the last several years in the pre-admissions workshop, which is geared towards American Indian and Alaska Native students. So again, workshops that prepare them and expose them to different careers in the medical profession. And then we have continued with our AHEC and rural programs as well. In the UME space, we oversee a number of affinity or identity groups. Again, these groups are open to everybody and have different missions and visions, if you will, depending on the organization that they're involved with, the national organizations that they're involved with. We continue to support and advise students from different backgrounds. We've been able to help integrate diversity, equity, and inclusion curriculum into the medical school curriculum, as well as other programs on campus. We help connect students to community engagement opportunities. And I had mentioned our diversity council. We have diversity reps from each of the 4 medical school classes who also sit on that council and help provide feedback and advise the office on programming and initiatives. In the GME space, we provide consultations, mentorships, training in things such as holistic review, implicit bias, microaggressions, allyship, and help support our Minority Allied Resident Council, which is a group for residents and fellows from different backgrounds who are also involved in working on various diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. Another group that is open to everyone, including allies within the GME space. We have our UCLORS group for our faculty. So I tend to say that we've set up sort of a cascading mentorship model between UCLORS, which is our faculty group, our Minority Allied and Resident Council, so MARC for our residents and fellows, and then our various identity affinity groups or student groups in the UME space. So we just provide a number of networking opportunities and professional development opportunities for our faculty. I've been working very closely with faculty affairs with the help of our departmental leaders as well to create a faculty dashboard that does include some diversity demographics that is applicable to all the faculty within the School of Medicine. And then as far as the tracking of community activities for the promotions matrix, this is something that was implemented several years ago in terms of making sure people are recognized for the work that they are doing in this particular space. And we have continued to partner with community members and organizations who are working on improving health or bringing healthcare to communities that have experienced economic, health and environmental challenges. This is a picture from our Aurora Global Fest last summer, where we had the opportunity to meet with a lot of community members, a lot of community leaders as well, just to enhance our connections with the community. We're very much wanting to go into the community as opposed to saying, here we are, come to us. So we're doing a lot more of those activities. And lastly, number of offices that we partner with on campus, of course, the Office of Equity, Office of Disability Access and Inclusion. We want to make sure that everybody has the accommodations that they need to be successful in our environments. And the Office of Faculty Relations, again, in terms of including safe learning environments for all of our learners. So that's all I've got for today, but of course, I'm happy to answer any particular questions specific to the office or anything that's going on, of course, currently as well. Is there anything online that you saw? No? Okay. Okay. Sorry. Oh, I'm trying to
I just wanted to echo my support for Dr. Del Pino-Jones, and it's not everywhere around this country or all these schools on this campus that are continuing to do this important work, and I'm really appreciative to be part of a university where I have that support, and we all have that support, as I think we all need support at different times in our lives, and for many of us, that time is now, so thank you.
So I guess, let me just go over here. Yeah. I'm short. Can you see me okay? Okay. So one of the things, and we'll, after my comments, then we'll cut over to Cleveland, who will go over the department survey results. But one of the things that came out of there was a request, do we want to hear more from leadership about what's going on? And so this is a way to say, we hear you, and this is one of the ways we're trying to respond here. So and one of the things that's going on that will really impact every corner of our department is something called funds flow. How many here have heard of that? Okay, so not that many, right? And so but it's really important. And even though it's going on at levels that, may not be part of your everyday encounters, because it impacts everything in our department, we wanted people to know about it. And also, because of the situation going on, where you can step in to help. So we're a mission-driven department, and this is our mission. Starts with healing, and that healing, that clinical practice, that clinical work is what supports the teaching, discovery, the connecting through community engagement. And the emphasis that we want to place is really doing this together. This, especially in this time, we're stronger together. So being together, working together is what's going to help us get through some unquestionably challenging times. So what's all going on? As I'm sure you've heard, there's federal funding cuts. There's potential cuts to Medicaid. You just heard about what's going on in the DEI space. The Colorado state budget is not in good shape. That's another thing. So how does that impact the School of Medicine and how much support they can give us as a department? And because of the state budget, we're losing some state contracts. And then there's also some work going on at the legislative session that would greatly impact the funding that our hospital receives. And that's 340B pricing, I won't go into that. Anybody wants to know, you can talk to us later. But also there's a ban on facility fees. These are very big deals to our hospital partners. And I'll tell you in a sec why that matters. You know, we have these legal cases. Colorado has joined, I think it's 19 other states in a lawsuit around NIH funding. If anybody wants to see the lawsuit, I have it. You can look at it. But the loss in NIH funding is a pretty significant threat. Our campus has about $300 million in NIH funding, and you've probably seen some headlines where other schools are really being targeted and in particular areas, state funding cuts. And then with inflation, and if we do have inflationary period, our clinical partners particularly is going to experience increases in costs of equipment and supplies. So that's something that's kind of on our radar screen also. So what's going on more local here? We've got a new dean that everybody may have noticed. He sees the world differently. He came into a different world than the one that Dr. Riley was inhabiting. And he's looking around and saying, you know, there's some real serious threats to our practice, which is essential to our school. So because of that, he's bringing a more business-oriented approach to the school and our practice. And the clinical chairs are all in favor because we know this is something that needs to happen. We have to survive to be able to continue what we're doing. And the other thing that's really important that will eventually, I hope, impact family medicine is he wants the departments to act more like a true group practice. And that way that we do things for each other, support each other, and negotiate together with our health system. And that makes a big difference in places where that works well. Changing relationships, a lot of retirements. A lot of retirements happening at departments, but also leaders in the school of medicine, people that, our clinical leadership was used to working with. A lot of those folks have, kind of turned over. And then there's been lots of consultants keeping our business team very busy. And that's the funds flow part that you'll hear more about it. The reality is as we talk to them, most of their formulas say, family medicine will probably get less support from the hospital, but I don't know that's for sure. And I'll tell you why. And then, okay, what about, local here, our department? Our clinical income from taking care of patients is 3/4 of the money we have to support all the other things we do. And I think, you don't think about that day to day, even if you're a clinician, you don't think about that day to day, but that's why it's so important. And that's why I've always said the clinical practice is really the foundation for us being excellent in all these other areas. Okay. Oh, sorry about, thanks. Is that better? Okay, thanks. We're anticipating tighter clinical margins. Okay, that's just kind of what's happening kind of worldwide. We don't want people to work harder. We don't think they can work any harder. I mean, everybody's working really hard, but we do believe we can work smarter. There's things we're doing that we think we could do with more efficiency, less waste. We know in our clinical environment, we're not actually getting paid for all the work we're actually doing. So we have to get paid for the good work we're doing. We're trying to juggle old and new ways of doing things, which is always change is hard. It means changing the ways we're used to doing stuff. And that makes for more administrative burdens. And one of the things we've really tried to do as a leadership team is how do we bridge these silos? So parts of the department have an idea what's going on in other parts of the department. This is something that's been a pretty consistent thing that's come out of our department survey. Like, I want to know what's going on. I want to have the opportunity to participate and other things. And then there's higher workloads. That's why I say I don't think people can work harder. We have to work smarter. And then loss in grant and contract funds, it's not just hit the school, it's hit us at home here. So with all that, though, one thing I want to say, and our dean emphasized this in the meeting earlier this week, we are in way better shape than a lot of other academic medical centers. Before all this stuff, the kind of chaos and uncertainty coming out of Washington, there were other medical schools that were already underwater financially. There were health systems underwater financially. We weren't. And one of the reasons we're in good shape and why we're confident we're going to get through this is because of the strength of our school, the strength of the people that make up our school, and the strength of our hospital partner in our health system. So, take that to heart. We're in pretty good shape compared to a lot of places around the country. So with all that going on, who's doing anything about it? We're working together. And you'll see this kind of together thing because that's what it's going to take. The funds flow agreement that the dean is working very hard on, the clinical chairs are working on, the business team is spending hundreds of hours working on, and I'll tell you more about what that means. You have probably seen, especially the researchers are aware of this, because of this unprecedented cuts to research funding, all the departments contributed money for an emergency bridge funding pool to support our researchers. And this is something that got attention from around the country. Not every school is doing this. So this is something we felt was really important to show our research community, you're important, we value you, we're gonna do what we can to support you. And then Dean Sampson has pledged support for trainees. And that's something, again, not every place, they may want to, but they may not be able to. And that's why I say we're in better shape. At the department level, as I said, lots of work on funds flow. Our clinical affairs team, they're working on what's the primary care strategy. We're a primary care department. But overall, as a school, we really haven't had a plan for what does that mean for us clinically. So we're working really hard on that. And next week, we'll be presenting our thoughts to the dean about what we think family medicine needs to grow to support our academic mission. What do we need to be able to teach? What do we need to be able to do research? And then we're starting with today, sharing information so you know more about what's going on. So, funds flow. This is where we as a department get our money. These are all the different kinds of money that we get. Can you see that? Well, this doesn't show up on there, does it? No. Do I have a thing? Well, sorry about that. The ones that are in red are all tied to our clinical practice. There's different amounts of money that show up in each of those circles, but you can see we get a variety of funding, but a lot of it, most of it is tied to our clinical work. This is really shows you graphically how important our clinical practice is to support our department. This doesn't include grants and contracts because our grants and contracts, that money is specific to a project. You can't take, say, one of Sarah's projects and take that budget and use it to support education in the residency. As much as she might want to, nope, not allowed. And then there's a lot of overhead that our researchers, even if they could, they would not be allowed to pay for the business office that processes her stuff, gets the grants out, does HR. None of that is included. So that's how we pay for all that stuff out of clinical funds. So the blue circle, patient income, the orange, that's the hospital support. The gray circle, that's the how the CU medicine, the practice, supports our compensation plan so that we can pay a competitive salary to our family physicians and APPs. And UPL is related to Medicare, pays for our behavioral health program, pays for other things too. And then we get a little bit extra from CU medicine, but you can see most of this money is really tied to our clinical practice. Okay, funds flow, what is it? This is the process, the formula, the rules by which how the hospital determines how much money they're going to give to the School of Medicine and what it can be spent for. So this is a negotiation that's going on. This will impact us for a long time to come. And our hope is that it's going to make it more efficient. Right now, every single department's got to negotiate with a hospital. And it takes up a lot of time, takes up a huge amount of time for a business team. Everybody wants to streamline that. We think we could spend that energy doing other things, strategically more important. But this is what it pays for. It pays for the clinical effort of our physicians and our APPs in clinic. It pays for the people that are on the inpatient service, FMIS, in the hospital. It pays for the physicians, APPs, and psychologists over in Cedar Addiction Medicine. It pays for boosting up our salaries so that our docs get closer, we're not that close, closer to the market rate of what family physicians make for clinical work. Pays for a little bit of our clinical leadership. We're hoping to get a little bit more. They pay for our clinical new faculty recruitment. Sometimes there's a startup package. New services, clinical services. So, and then overhead is all that stuff I was talking about before. And ultimately, some of this will be paid for. They're still trying to figure out what's that number. So this is why we should care. That funds flow will directly or indirectly impact every mission area and program in family medicine. And you might say, well, like, I'm in education. How does that impact it? It's because of the support. The more that we can get from funds flow, the less we have to take from our own clinical income to support these things, which means we have more that we can dedicate to our academic programs. So our clinical funds is how we pay for basically all the other costs of operating this department that are not fully supported by some other sort of money. That's not from the department. So our incentives come from this, clinical incentives. Our salary increases, merit and annual. You might think, oh, the chancellor authorized us to do increases. No, the chancellor authorized us to spend our own money to give increases. We never get any more money with that. It's kind of a nice trick, actually. They did that at University of Arizona, too. Stipends that are work-related. All the support services, business functions, IT, HR, communications, admin support, all of that is potentially paid for. Well, right now it's all paid for our clinical operation funds. So that's why funds flow, if we get more of that, we have to use less of our clinical operations to pay for all this. Salary over NIH cap and School of Medicine cap. Every education and research program is touched by this, and DEI and community engagement also, and our inquiry program. So this is just a chart. It's hard to see, but you can see these are all our various programs, not all of them, but a lot of them, and how they're supported, majority supported. And you can see most is really in the, I wish I had this thing working. Is that? Nope. So you can see most of it's in that first column. Clinical revenues is how we pay for it. There's a little bit that comes in from grants. Well, actually a lot that comes in from grants, but you can only use it for grants. A little bit we get from the School of Medicine, from state funds, and some contracts, and then the GME office. But most of it really, comes from our clinical revenue. So this seems to, we really need everybody's help. This is a time to really pull together because there's a lot of things we can't control. And so these are the circles of concern, influence, and control. The circles of concern are all those things that we worry about. There's those things going on in Washington at the state legislature. Is CU Medicine collecting our clinical billings? Do patients show up? There's 1,000 things we can worry about, but we can't really directly influence them. So why do we call that circle of concern? Circle of influence are those things that we have some influence, but we don't really control it. So we have some influence in, how we pay people and how we align that with their work, where we spend our money. We have control over that. Our well-being, we don't totally control that, but we can do a lot to influence our faculty staff well-being. And then the funds flow work. We don't control it, but we're making sure we have the best data in there so that it will really reflect what we need as a department. And why I made this bigger, the circle of control is the stuff that we directly through our actions can do something about. And, there's this phrase, control the controllables and put your energy there. So we can control our expenses. Do we really need to buy that extra whatever? What are our priorities? Figuring out what's the most important thing you want to get done in your program or your area. Energy. How do you prioritize your energy? Decision making, deliberate and careful, and thinking about the long term, not the just right now. Careful where you put your resources, and that's just money. It's time, it's people, it's space. Being as efficient as possible in our operations. We know, and I've heard this from a number of people, we know we can improve our billing and coding. We deliver excellent clinical care. We're actually not getting paid for it. And the only person that helps is the insurance company. We're saving them money. And it's like, that doesn't make sense when we need to get paid for our really great care. Clinical hours. So if someone is expected to work in clinic, are they actually able to do that? Because that makes a difference. Our researchers, applying for grants and contracts, they're really ramping up. Joni's really encouraging them. We're trying to see what other supports we can bring to make that happen. And this is the crowdsourcing part. Ideas for new revenue generation, or how do we reduce inefficiencies or waste? Our dean was commenting, he said, there's a lot of room for improving waste. He's a neurosurgeon. He said, just in the few cases he's done, he said, there's a lot of waste in the OR. We could do this better. So the people who know that and see those things are the folks that are closest to the ground, the people that are closest to the work. And you can say, wow, I think we could do this better. And finally, stay determined and hopeful. How we respond to things is something that's in our control. We can't control what's happening, but we can control how we respond. We can control how we treat each other. And I'm asking for extra kindness and understanding and support in a time where there's a lot of uncertainty. And, but together, we'll get through this. So kind of closing thoughts, we'll skate on some ice. We might get over the tips of our skis. I'm not really a skier, but I understand the concept. But we'll get through this and we will thrive. In the long run, we'll thrive if we do it together. And that's really our superpower, what we can do together. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Piggott here, who's our beloved Vice Chair of DEI, a masterful educator, and wears the coolest bow ties in town.
Showing up there, but I don't know. Will I be able to move over? Let me see. No. Control. All right, good afternoon, everyone. And so I'm going to do a very high level and a brief version of the employee survey. Today, it is not enough time to go over it in depth, not even close. But all the material will be there for you to access, and it's actually already there for you to access now, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But before I get into it, I want to just thank all the people that make it possible, because in this department, we do so many things together, and getting different perspectives and people that really take on a lot of the heavy work is super important. And so I want to thank Carlos for doing the quantitative analysis. Carly and Tristan have done an incredible amount of work with the qualitative analysis, and Carly really took the lead when it came to actually putting the survey together. Michael from his perspective with HR, Liz, communications extraordinaire, and then other people that came together from our DFM Workwell group, our gender equity leaders, Carrie and Taryn, and then our executive leadership team that have all come together to sort of help not only put the survey together, but review the results and try to come up with ways to make this place even better. And then last but not least, you beautiful people. Just because we create a survey, we need people to answer the survey, right? And you all took a lot of your time to answer the survey and share your truths. It wasn't always nice, but it was your truth. And that was important, because unless we hear your truth, we can't really make this place the best possible. And I think we all want to work in a place that we are proud of. And I'm already proud of this place, and I'm even more proud of the opportunities to make it better. And so what am I going to go over? I'm going to just, this is sort of the outline. History of the survey and level setting of what we're going to do with it. Go over very quickly just some of that nuts and bolts of response rates and how the analysis was done. Look at overall trends. Those slides will be busy. You're not meant to absorb them. You're just meant to like take one thing and know that you'll see it later. We'll review some of our strengths and opportunities, and then talk about what we want to do next regarding supporting transparency, because I think we all know no one hates more than to spend time on a survey and then people don't do anything with it. That is not how we will be rolling with this survey. So level setting. Since 2012, we've been doing a periodic employee survey. Sometimes it's every year, sometimes every 2 years, sometimes every 3 years. Things happen. This is our 8th survey. The last time this was done was in 2022. We actually had a really thoughtful discussion of whether we should do one again at this time, because these surveys are traditionally run through our wonderful HR team, and we've been without some HR leadership for over a year now. But we came together and said, hey, if we're going to commit to making changes from this, let's do it. And everyone says we're committed to make changes from this, though realizing that certain changes might be slower. And we realize that we're in academia, certain things are slow. The survey also has really 2 main components. There's a standard Gallup Q12 questions, which is validated and used nationally and probably internationally as well. Those questions stay the same, and it also helps us have a good understanding of what's going on as we compare with other organizations, and then questions that are really specific to us. I also want to acknowledge the fact that though the survey was done in the beginning of 2025, so much change has happened just in a short period of time. We're getting a lot of information being thrown at us all the time, and that can be really, really challenging for all of us in this room. It can also be extremely challenging for leaders. These challenges are financial, and sometimes for some of us, it's even existential, right? This will impact what we're able to truly move forward on. That's just a reality, and also the pace that we'll be able to move forward on it. But we will move forward on many, not all, but many of these things. And the things that we don't move forward on, we're going to do a better job of telling you why not. So this is probably my least favorite slide that I created. It's so busy. And so employee survey came out January 16th through closed February 11th. Our response rate was around 61%, which is around the amount that we had in years in the past. It's only sent to paid employees, and so our Denver Health colleagues who are important faculty, and we have other important faculty as well, they're not included in this survey. Our resident learners and like GME fellows also are not included on the survey, with some very few exceptions. A response rate of around 35% is like standard for climate surveys. We kill it. We do a great job, and it also is really helpful because we actually know that these responses are pretty well represented for the department as a whole. The other way we try to understand if it's represented of the department as a whole is based on sort of what the demographic information comes to us. So about 56% of people surveyed were faculty, about 26% were staff. Wait, we only have faculty and staff. Where everyone else? A lot of people this year, more than years in the past, chose not to disclose a lot of demographic information, whether it was their role, their gender, their racial, ethnic demographics. I don't know why, but it could be that people don't feel safe sharing that information. And I think that's something for us to continue to work on as an organization together. But people did definitely share their information. And so I'm happy we had that information to at least move forward on and act on, even though we can't necessarily cut and slice the data in some of those big ways that we continue to do to protect confidentiality. You all also put a lot of information in the qualitative parts of the survey. 145 people provided open-ended responses. That could be one response. It could be 5 or 7 responses. And so once again, thank you to Carly and Tristan, because that was a lot of information to go through. And then how did we slice the data? We sliced it in big groups, faculty or staff, gender, white or BIPOC, and then length of time in the department was something new that we added that gave us some really good information. And so one of those busy slides, you're not gonna be able to absorb it, it's okay. But how to interpret the information? Big picture, 1 is bad, 5 is good. Okay. Gallup says that a 5 is a resounding absolutely yes. 4 is definitely a positive, a conditional yes. And consider 3 of people being nice, and you should interpret it mostly as sort of a no. Okay. And so for questions that we have done in the past, I just went back through 2019 for the sake of the slide. You can see sort of how response rates have gone up or down in certain areas, but a lot of our responses were sort of in that 4 range. Some things I wanted to highlight from this section is people seem to know what's expected of them from work. They say that they work with people that care about them, and people are committed to doing good work. All wonderful things. Some of the lower scores are regarding, I have a best friend at work. I know a lot of you have very strong opinions on whether you like that question or not. We're not getting into it, okay? And whether they were praised for doing good work in the past 7 days. We then have our DFM specific questions. Not necessarily validated questions. Some of them are brought from other different surveys, but a lot of them we add because these are trends we're seeing either with the one-on-one conversations, things from other surveys, lots of different sources. And so we put them in the survey to know, is this the opinion of a few or opinion of the whole? Who is having some of these challenges? Are these challenges that were identified 6 months ago still a challenge now? Are we making progress? What should we do about it? And so those questions make the survey. And so if you see there's nothing in 2022 or 2019, it's because we just came up with them, okay? But overall, as you can see, less numbers in the 4, right? These scores are a little bit lower, and a lot of the questions that are a repeat are a little bit lower as well, though some are definitely improved. So strengths, flexible work environment. Supervisors are committed to growth. Lower scores, how people feel about their pay. A feeling of being really, really busy. And so overall trends. 2025, when we look at those Gallup 12 questions, things are about the same or maybe a little bit better. A little bit better. When we look at our DFM items, there's a little bit of decline overall. Not on everything, but a little bit of decline. And then what happened when we sliced and diced the data based on those categories we talked about before? Like, are we seeing differences in how faculty and staff are answering questions, how people from different genders are asking questions? Overall, no. But I want to put an asterisk there because this survey had the largest amount of people in that unknown category, and people oftentimes in those unknown categories are more opinionated, right? And so though I can't slice in that sort of area, it is hard to sort of know, but at least from what we have, we cannot tell a difference. Where we did see a difference though was length of tenure in the department. And so that's what this slide is here. So for those that have been in the department less than 2 years, still a very small number, right? Versus those that have been here longer. Those that have been here a little bit longer, they were a little bit more negative in their scoring of responses, okay? And so even if you then took a composite of all those DFM answered questions, the overall composite score averaged at 3.67. That is not weighted versus 4.15, and that was statistically significant. And so we're probably not going to, some of the top 5 strengths are listed on the screen here. So regarding quality of work, supervisors, work flexibility, what is expected of us at work, and opportunities to learn and grow. I think being part of a university, there's so many opportunities to learn and grow, and many of us have wonderful supervisors and support teams that want to invest in us growing. The thing I enjoy most about the work, this is getting to a lot of the qualitative information, people and teams, flexibility, ability to work on a variety of different projects, and alignment with our department's mission. Top 5 opportunities. And so this is starting with the quantitative results. We talked about being paid fairly. I have enough time to participate in additional projects as sort of this sense of busyness. I have a best friend at work. That one is starred because I do want to mention that always scores low, and we actually did way better than we usually do. And so though it is actually still one of our 5 lowest scores, it is the 2nd highest score we have had ever in the history of this survey. So I don't know what to make of that. It is what it is. Everyone being held to a fair and equitable accountability standards. And so it's interesting, sort of, we have a question about quality of work and people working hard, but then on the counter, we have people saying that people are not held to fair and equitable accountability standards. A lot to unpack there. And then DFM creates a culture that fosters and rewards excellence. On the qualitative responses, we also asked about critical issues facing the department. So workload and time constraints. Leadership support and department direction. So many people on the survey talked about concerns or unclear or inefficient communication about the direction of the department. Something that Myra alluded to is something that we've been trying to work on and trying to move forward. It's also challenging because when we ask questions about leadership, it's hard to know if it's the department leadership, your supervisor, there's all these sort of levels, but it is still an overall and very important theme. Compensation. What we then asked is, there was so much rich information for the qualitative responses. We went to the team and said, I want you to take all of those responses, also take in mind what you're seeing from the quantitative survey and just what you've seen from other surveys, and come up with recommendations. Don't hold back, but be constructive. Don't think about necessarily what's going to be practical, but still, like, if there's things that you can couch it, put it all in there. We'll deal with the practical and prioritization later. And let's get it out there and let's be transparent about it, and so that we can address it. And so there were 7 recommendations. Some of these first 4, and I'm not going, due to time, I'm not going to go through these in big detail, but just sort of explain policies and things that are influencing some of the challenges when it comes to funding and clinical hours. Let people know about the progress about decision making and what's going on with strategic planning and some of these big, hard things that some people felt have been going on longer than they'd like. How can we use technology and AI and all these things so that we don't feel overwhelmed by our work and just make things a little bit easier for all of us? Certain things that have happened have been really hard and challenging and either hit us in different sort of ways. Many people talked about, for instance, wellness days going away and what that felt to them and what that meant to them. And so at least acknowledge or explain or show people some alternatives regarding some of those options. More clarity about pay, and also is it a perception, is it reality? What's going on with like pay equity? That's something that always sort of comes up. Culture, there's cultures in one place, but then cultures in other places are different. Maybe a whole departmental culture plan might be a good idea. Once again, these are all recommendations that came out from the thing. And then we've gone a while without some HR support, and many people have sort of mentioned, senior HR support have felt that that's been really challenging for them with some of the sticky issues. I'm going to go into just some quick detail of sort of how are we addressing some of these. And so I'm going to bring up the dissatisfaction I'm going to bring up the idea of wellness and restoration and about HR. And so one of our big goals is to make sure that everyone in this department feels heard, and that collectively we're working together to address the top issues. And the nice thing is most of these things weren't a surprise and people have been working on it for a long time, if not years. We just have some opportunities to share what's going on with them. And so here's just a glimpse of some of the things that we're sharing. Regarding wellness and restoration, that was the #1 thing that came out of our strategic plan, if you all might remember. We have a wonderful team that's working on leading some of that with a large amount of us. And they've had some significant wins with some transparency, and they're continuing to do some more work, and our intranet page is one of those sort of things. We're also working on some clarity on different things such as like sick policy and other things like that. HR needs. You're like, what's taking so long to get an HR person? It's not that hard. It's really hard. We had 2 failed searches. 2. We don't generally have any failed searches. And there have been lots of challenges with that, from even just some caps that have been put on us by School of Medicine above us when it comes to pay. There's a process in place, and we decided that we're not even going to go for a new senior HR person. We're going to get 2 non-senior HR people to replace that work. And those jobs are posted, and we're working on them, and that has been moved forward. And so there is work going on there. And those are just 2 of many examples. Also want to acknowledge that these are some significant challenges. And so some of these are just really complex or even wicked problems as they might be described. For instance, if we're just going over pay, right? All the things that go into pay, payment models, hospital support, meeting clinical expectations, grants, what's academic programs are giving us support, federal policy, state policy, the US economy, and those are just a few of the things that go into pay. We're still working on them. We're going to take a quality improvement approach to some of this work. For instance, the department-wide culture plan, our diversity, equity, and inclusion team is actually working on doing a plan just for our team that we could hopefully work it out and see, is this a possibility for the whole department? If it's not, we won't do it. And then increasing transparency. And so improved communication. One way we're going to do this is through our intranet site. And so right now, we have these surveys are on our intranet site under the HR page. This slideshow plus 3 different versions of the survey, so you can look at it in different ways. The qualitative responses, just the responses for the past year. How does this compare from one year to the next? We're also going to create a dashboard of all the things that were in recommendations. This is just a preview of what the dashboard's going to look at. What was the feedback? What was the goal? What plans are in process? What are some of the recent wins? And the goal is to have those dashboards up for you all by May or June, if not earlier than that. And with that, thank you. I can stay behind for some questions, but I know people need to transition to other things.
Anybody have any questions in the room? No, let me check online. No questions online besides praise for Cleveland and Myra. Thank you guys for talking today. Speaking of surveys, we sure do love them. You will notice on the way out, we have another survey for you guys to take about our meeting today. We really appreciate your feedback. Thanks for being here and have a good day, guys.
Looking forward to seeing folks at Spring Fling.
Yes, Spring Fling this Friday.